Hello and welcome back to another Frost Devlog. Frost is a 2D top-down Souls-like, where you will explore, fight, and probably die. Yeah, that's rough, buddy. But whilst doing all that, you will also try not to freeze to death. So yeah, today we are going to talk about the main mechanic of the game, Frost. You know it's gonna be a good mechanic when it has the same name as the game. I probably mentioned how Frost works a bunch of times, but let's just recap. Each area will have a certain temperature level, which will determine how much frost points you will receive upon entering the area. So, a snowy forest area set at night will give you more frost points than a warm forest set as the day. You can also assume that the later areas of the game will be colder than the earlier ones. Additionally to the areas, there will be certain objects and enemies that can inflict frost points if one is not careful. That one being you. What are you looking at? Take this! Where were we? Oh yeah. So, what do these frost points do? To put it simply, it reduces your max stamina. But to understand how impactful that is, let's put it in perspective. The most reliable way to avoid taking damage is with dashes, which give you iframes, aka you are invulnerable. Your stamina, or rather your stamina points, dictate how many times you can dash. Now coming back to the frost mechanic, for each frost point you have one max stamina point less. Meaning, if you don't deal with the frost, you might not be able to dash at all. So, now comes the question. How do we deal with frost? There will be two ways, both in the form of items, which you will either find or buy. The first way is this lovely section here, called Frost Resist. Here you will be able to equip up to 3 warm cloths at a time. There are 4 rarities of cloth, where each rarity gives you more frost resistance than the previous one. Here are their lovely icons and their AI generated names. Thanks ChatGPT, very cool. Now for the second way of dealing with frost, the lantern. The way the lantern works is the following. First, you will need to find the lantern casing. Once equipped, you won't receive any buffs immediately, but what you do get are additional slots for the lantern. There are up to 3 slots. 1 for the flame and 2 for the upgrade of choice. How many additional lantern slots you get is dependent on the lantern casing itself. There are 3 types. The most basic one gives you 1 slot for the flame, and the following 2 each give you 1 additional upgrade slot for the lantern. Equipping the flame grants you light and certain buffs. But before we get into the details, I would first like to talk about the upgrades. In order for the upgrades to work, the flame must be equipped. There are 3 different types of upgrades for the lantern. The first type are called reflectors, and they change the shape of the emitted light. This is the default one. Then we have the round reflector. This one mainly highlights the cursor. Then we have the square reflector. And lastly, the diamond reflector. The next 2 upgrade types are called lantern ventilators and lantern canisters. They are a bit less interesting because they will mainly boost 2 main stats. Those 2 stats being light intensity, which will make the light shapes bigger, and the other one being frost resistance. There are also a couple of different rarities for the 2 mentioned upgrade types. Now that that's all covered, it's finally time to talk about the flames. There are 6 different flames. As mentioned before, all of the flames will give you light and a certain buff. And additionally, each flame comes in its own color. The first flame is the Flame of Hope. This one is just something to get you started. It will give you some frost resistance. Then we have the Flame of Ambition. Huh? Did you guys hear that? Must have been the wind. This one will light your weapon on fire, which will deal extra damage to all enemies.
Emboldened by the flame of ambition.
Oh, it's you again.
Someone must extinguish thy flame.
Ugh.
Let it be Margit.
Okay, don't worry guys, I'll make it quick. So yeah, extra damage. Then we have the Flames of Freedom. This one will infuse your weapon with the element of wind. Your weapons will deal bonus force damage, which essentially means it will stagger enemies quicker. The next one is the Flame of Courage. This one will infuse your weapon with electricity. This increases your normal and force damage a bit. Basically a mix of the previous two flames. Then we come to the Flame of Life. The Flame of Life makes your weapons into something called living weapons, meaning you can control them at a distance. Oh, and they can fly now. And lastly, the Flame of Dreams, which do nothing, at least at the moment. Here I'm not entirely sure what to do. I had a bunch of ideas, but all of them are kinda gimmicky. One of the ideas was that it reveals some dreamland, which would unlock some new areas and maybe an alternative ending. Which sounds cool, but it's a really ambitious idea. The other idea I had was that it does not provide actual light, but just gives you direct vision in the dark, which would then be used to discover some new enemies which would normally avoid you because of the light you carry. Or something like that. But all of these ideas act more as some key items instead of player buffs like the rest of the flames. So we'll just let the ideas cook some more and we'll see what happens. So yeah, that covers everything for today. Hope the video was fun or at least interesting. Stay safe and have a nice day. Bye.